In this video, we're going to focus on how we can make our tooltip more customized with a specific value per bubble. You can see here we have these 4 bubbles. It's just a single data set here, but it will show here, instead of the default legend value, it will show here a company value, for example, Starbucks here. Here we have Nero or Cafe Nero, and we have here another one is Dunkin' Donuts, and we have another one here, Costa Coffee. So let's start to explore how we can customize these tooltips for every bubble data point. In this video, we're going to answer one of the viewers' questions, which is how to change the tooltip text for each data point in the bubble chart in Chartjs. And this question came from one of my other videos about how to create a bubble chart with different point style in Chartjs, which is quite interesting. And if you scroll down here, you will see eventually the question came from Danielle Dotto. So a special thank you to Danielle for asking the question. And this is what Danielle asked. Thank you, sir. Do you know how to change the individual text label? Which I assume is, of course, based on this, on the tooltip itself. So let's start to work on this. So to do this, first of all, I need to get the default code. For that, I go to chartjs3.com, getting started, basically in this specific part of the link. And you might notice this, for some reason, my Google Chrome gives this error, although on Firefox, it works fine. Anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this chunk of code here, which is our default code. Copy this, and if you want to understand what this code does, make sure to watch this that explains the code step by step. I'll paste this in here. Once I did that, I'm going to cut out this and I'm going to paste that in there, and then save that and refresh. There we are. So now we have a bar chart, but we need to convert this into a bubble chart. To do this quickly, I'll scroll down here and just adjust here the data. Here, basically with the bubble chart, we have 3 items. So we're going to remove this and play with the following. We say X, and this X would be, let's say, 10. And then we have the Y would be 10, and the radius will be 5. So once I did that, comma, paste, paste, and paste again. Alright, so we should have 4 or 5 overall. In this case, 4 items. That should be more than sufficient. And then here, I'm just going to also I'm just putting in some random numbers just to make it look different. 3, and this is 7, and the radius here, this will be 7, this will be 3, and this one will be 10. If I save this, refresh, let's see what happened. Alright, doesn't happen anything yet because we didn't indicate here bubble chart. Bubble, save that, refresh, there we are. So now it's nicely spread over all over the place. And this was the real question here. How can we change the items? Well, to do this, first of all, let me remove some of these colors. You should have only one single color here and this. Alright, so you can see this would not make any sense, of course. The tooltip shows these values here, but of course we want to have, for example, in the marketing world, you have certain charts where you have like different companies and we'll compare them to certain values. So for that, what we could do, for example, here, put in different companies instead of weekly sales. I'll just say here the coffee market. I guess that's the most common one. Coffee market or coffee sales. Maybe that will be fine. And then you can imagine here some common company names. Alright, so what I want to do, I want to add up here some company names. So I'm going to use a trick here. And this is basically just adding up another item in here. This is basically a part of the data structure. So we're going to add up here a new item. I'll just say a company, and this company I can call here, the first one will be Starbucks coffee, and then we have another one here. Let's add up a few more. So we have this, then the next one would be another very big chain. It's Costa Coffee. Then we have here Dunkin' Donuts and coffee, and maybe Krispy Kreme or Nero coffee, doesn't matter. Nero coffee is fine. Alright, let's save that. Refresh. Now we have this, but if I still hover over it, nothing really happens. It shows coffee sales, but it doesn't show what we really want. So what I want to do now is I want to grab this certain value and start to display it in the tooltip. To do this, I need to go in the options here and just say plugins, and then here what I'm going to do here is a tooltip. In the tooltip, we're going to work with the callback. So what I want to do before that, in the plugins, put a comma here. Then in here, what I'm going to say here is callbacks. And with the callbacks, we can start doing something. And what I really want to do here, let me explain that, is to play around with the tooltip, the label. In this case, the label is the square box and everything matching with that, the data points, etc., etc. So I don't know how much value it is to show these values here in the radius. That might be. It could be. Maybe it's something else. It's up to you, of course, to consider what would be the best to show. So what I want to do here is just to show here the coffee brand or the company brand. So what I'm going to say here, label. First of all, we're going to get the label, and then we say here in the label, we say your context. And then we put in here a function arrow expression because it's a function. Basically, it could be like this. It would be doing it like that. But now in this case, I don't want that because I just want to have this, and then we have here the curly braces. And then in here, I'll say console log.context. Because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how we can extract this specific value that we added on. The reason why we are able to add this on here is because it's still JavaScript. And what JavaScript is just basically objects. We're working here with data objects, and all what we are doing is just adding up some extra information. So if I save this, refresh, open up the developer tab, because right now if I hover over it here, it will not show anything here. That's fine because we didn't return anything, but we do have the information here, and the information that I really care about is basically this one. So I hover over this specific bubble. So the question is now, if I click here on raw, I can see exactly which company that is. That is Cafe or Nero Coffee, or maybe it's Cafe Nero. I don't know what's the official term. I thought it's Cafe Nero, probably would be more appropriate. This one here should be Starbucks. Select that. Oh, and that is Costa. So, alright, that's not the first one. I want to figure out which one is this. Let's make this radius here bigger. 17. So 10 by 10. That would be the value. 10 by 10 and 17. Alright, you can see here this one here. This should be our Starbucks value. Raw company is Starbucks coffee. Alright. What I'm going to do now is just going to work on it, but what I want to say here, Nero Coffee is horrible. It's Cafe Nero, if I'm not mistaken, with double F. Anyway, so enough to be precise. What I want to do here now, I want to return the value. What value I want to return is basically this one here. So if I hover over it, you can see here now how we get it. We go here from context.raw. Remember, we are here in the raw, and then we grab here the company. Once we do this, we can semicolon here, save, refresh, and now if I hover over it, you can see here we get Starbucks coffee, Cafe Nero, and we have here Dunkin' Donuts, and we have here Costa coffee. So of course we could also grab the values. So to do this, let's go back here to our item, because we're still in the context, and you can see here what we want to grab. We can get the raw value, you can get the parse value here. And well, basically for us, the raw value would be fine. Of course, you have to consider what is the most important item here. I would say maybe here the radius was interesting because the radius would symbolize a certain percentage of market share. At least in certain charts for marketing, the radius would be the market share or something like that. Anyway, what we could do here is just, we can do here, I'm just going to do here a template literals. So we're going to say backtick. Then in here, $sign. Put in this here. Because this I'm doing here, so we can easily concatenate it. Then I'm going to say here, market share, maybe market share equals, we can do here $sign, and then we're going to grab, well, exactly, we're going to grab the R here, the radius. How to get this? You can see here raw.r, so we have first context.raw.r, and then I will say here percentage. So let's put this all together, save that, refresh. Now if I hover over it, market share of 17%, interesting, 10%, 3%, and another one here, 7%. Beautiful. And that's basically the way how you can give custom values for tooltip or per item. So if you like this video, I highly recommend you to watch this specific video here that shows you how to add more information in the tooltip in Chartjs. Explains a lot of items, almost everything, in a 20-minute video, which is highly recommended to watch if you want to customize from top to bottom everything in your tooltip.